Good evening, Lake Orion. Well, dang, this water's cold. I'm your host, and I am Between Taorminas. Yes, indeed. This is Between Taorminas here on ONTV. I'm your host, Anthony Taormina. I'm here with Sammy. How you doing, Sammy?
I'm hanging in there.
For those of you guys wondering where Ian Weatherspoon is this week, Ian had a sports commitment, so he will not be here this week. I know.
Nothing you can do about it.
But, I mean, it's sad, isn't it?
You have me this week.
Okay. So, but yeah, Ian says he will be back the next time. That's it for sure. So let's do a poll next. Let's do a poll. Should Ian do Between Taorminas on his own in the future? Let's do a yes or no. I might have to put that up in the future.
Yes, you should.
All right. So let's talk about the situations that are going on in college football. You have the Ohio State situation with Urban Meyer. And then you have the Maryland situation with DJ Durkin. You talk to me about both those things.
Well,
Ohio State first.
The Ohio State one, of course, involved an assistant coach with his ex-wife now. Of course, there was some. Urban Meyer knew about the allegation. I mean, against the assistant coach. So.
There was the allegation of the question is if he knew.
If he knew, that was the question, and is it a fireable offense? And according to his new contract he signed back in earlier in the year, it looks like this is a fireable offense to me. But Urban's telling one side. Now, we haven't heard from the athletic director of Ohio State, Gene Smith, on his side, if he knew anything about what this was going on.
Now, Urban's been placed on administrative leave.
Paid administrative leave, yep.
Can you describe to viewers what paid administrative leave is?
Paid administrative leave is is something where you're not with the team, but you are paid throughout the process. We're on unpaid administrative leave. That tells me you're basically fired. But right now, he still has a job for the moment. But he can't be with the team. He can't go recruiting. He's basically sort of like suspended right now.
Mm-hmm. So basically, paid administrative leave is Urban Meyer's in that position. I also want to talk about what's the chances of Urban coming back?
This is a tough one because when I look at the situation, I know Urban Meyer is revered in Ohio State. Mm-hmm. He has not lost to Michigan. He's only lost 8 games overall. 2 of them, I believe, in Michigan State. Mm-hmm. But, I think there is a chance Urban Meyer comes back. Because when you look at the situation now, yes, it's a fireable offense, but I just think he's going to find a way to come back. He's going to find a way. And it's because of that fan base. It's not because of...
But didn't that assistant coach talk to the FBI and said that basically to keep Urban out of this mess?
That's what he did. I mean, but it's pretty tough on that point of view. But I think that I believe Urban Meyer is going to come back. And will this be a distraction? Absolutely. But remember, this is a rabid fan base, and let's remember, back in 2011, when you were at Oakland.
Yep.
You remember the press conference with Jim Tressel? How
I remember that because
how Tressel lied to the NCAA.
I remember that because we were shooting around in Columbus, and we saw Gene Smith and Jim Tressel both going down the stairs, going down to their press conference to address the whole Terrell Pryor and other players' situations with the memorabilia. And just how I remember Coach Campy going up and saying hello, trying to say hello to Coach Trussell and to Gene Smith, and they were in a hurry to get to the press conference, and it just was surreal to actually be in Columbus on that day that they were actually doing the whole.
What I'm saying to you is, that was tattoos, illegal tattoos, and Jim Trussell lied to NCAA investigators about it. He defended his players, and he basically got fired, and let the Luke Fickell taken over. A lot of people at Ohio State's comparing this to the 2011 season. Of course, remember when Luke Fickell had to take over as an interim coach? Things didn't go well over there until Urban Meyer came there, basically fixed the culture there, won a national championship. He's 73-8 all time. And I think at the end of the day here, in my gut, I think he keeps his job. He really does.
All right, changing gears. Maryland, please explain that story.
Okay, DJ Durkin, his staff has been caught in a investigation involving football workouts and resulted in the death of a football player named Jordan McNair, who passed away. After a workout, he ran. It was, I believe, 10 110 sprints.
Yep.
And this is a complete.
They're saying heat stroke. He had a temperature of 106 degrees.
This was a complete
The athletic
failure
training
everywhere.
staff failed to put him in an ice bath, which is one of the ways you can
cool your body down.
Cool the body down, and there's just a lot of questions there. Already, the strength and conditioning coach Rick Court was he had resigned and was fired, and could DJ Durkin be next?
Yes. Here's why. Because he was the one that put the culture into that team. He's the one that brought Rick Court in. He's the one, along with Court, that put that culture to the extreme max. And it's something that,
you had situations where coaches were throwing food, putting extra dumbbells on when you're
extra
lifting,
workouts. You can't do that.
Also cursing and also swearing, and it brings the question of what? How do you define toughness? Do you have to? It describes it. How do you balance? You balance getting the best out of players without having to scream and cuss at them.
Well, you got to understand the weather. You got to understand the mental aspects. Now, football is not an easy sport to play.
No.
It is not. And
you're having workouts in like 80, 85 degrees, maybe,
90s.
90 degrees. When we coached track, usually if you're in the 80s, as a throwers coach, if it's 80 degrees or warmer, you have to give them constant breaks.
You got to give them constant breaks.
You have to give the kids constant breaks, or you just go inside.
This is a complete failure on the
training staff. It's a failure on the training staff, big time.
It's a complete failure on the coaching staff. It's a complete failure all around. You have a player that is gone, and now a head coach has to take the blame for this because he was, and the whole university and administration.
University's taking fault for it already.
Yes, and I think now the right thing for this team to do is fire DJ Durkin because he's the one that put the culture in. He's the one that he brought Court in. He's the one that brought this culture, and you have a lot of players complaining what he did and
complaining or upset
about this. And basically, if you want to change a culture, I understand Maryland was not a good football team, before. And then they bring in Durkin. Durkin, I understand. He worked at Michigan. He worked at Ohio State. He's worked for Harbaugh. He's worked for Urban Meyer. So when you look at Durkin, this puts him on a bad rap. And I think personally, I think DJ Durkin has to go. It would not surprise me if the McNair family files a lawsuit.
Oh, they're going to file against the university. That's for
Against
sure.
Maryland, against DJ Durkin, against Rick Court. I mean,
Against the trainer,
against the
head
trainers,
athletic trainers.
And, all of them are on administrative leave. You look at Durkin's on administrative leave. The trainer's on administrative leave. You already explained it with Court.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there comes a fine line with football players. There comes a fine line, I mean, if you want to push kids to the max, you know what I mean? You got to be encouraged. You got to be encouraging. You can't be negative. You can't be demeaning. You can't insult. You can't basically say you're a weak.
I mean, some of the things they were doing was just ridiculous. Some of the things, I mean, they were having injured players in tug of war against basically the entire defensive line or offensive line, and I mean, it's just that's ridiculous.
Terrible.
And then you see what happened with McNair and some of the things that the head athletic trainer said. Basically, he said get his beep off the field. Basically, I mean, it's just ridiculous. This is
a failure.
I mean, this is a failure on every single moral code, and every single This is a failure on so many fronts. If you're DJ Durkin, this is under your watch. So DJ Durkin should resign or get fired. I do think the head athletic trainer, who's been there since 2005, he's got to get fired. They're morally responsible for a death. And do you want to be morally responsible for a death? I don't.
No.
I mean, but then this brings a question of in football and toughness. This brings a question of toughness, not just in football, but all sports. You have to have that balance of you want to encourage kids, but you also want to get the best out of them.
But you also got to know their limitations.
You got to know the limitations. You got to also know the limitations. You also have to be aware of the temperatures, and you have to understand what being in that heat, because the heat out there was 80 degrees. I mean, if you go above 80 degrees, you have to give players frequent breaks. And that was not followed. That protocol was not. I know that coaches want to get bring the toughness out, but at the same time, you have to be reasonable. And I think sometimes that, it's the price of winning and the will to win. Can it be too much to the point where you ended up being morally responsible for the death of a player? And that's what's happened here.
I mean, sometimes, you want to win. You want to win.
But you want to win the right way.
And off-season workouts, I think they have to be watched more thoroughly. Whether it's in youth football, middle school, high school, college, professional, you have to be monitored.
You have to be weather aware.
And weather aware, you know what I mean?
Weather aware, yeah.
I'm a storm spotter, and I know what it takes to be
also,
weather
it's
prepared.
difficult to be in pads in 80, 85 degree, 90 degree weather.
It's difficult.
It's very difficult. I mean, it's just a failure on all fronts.
Yep, and I think DJ Durkin has to pay the ultimate price, which is got to get fired from Maryland.
Maryland's got to change culture.
They've got to change the culture there again.
All right, we'll be right back between Taorminas on ONTV.
Dragon on the Lake returns to Lake Orion in August with numerous events scheduled over a 4-day period. Started in 2009 to celebrate the Orion Arts Center's 30th anniversary, the annual event offers fun for the whole family. Things kick off on Thursday, August 23rd with the Chamber of Commerce Thirsty Thursday and Chili Cook-Off at 4:30 p.m. And 105.1 The Bounce gets the party started with old school jams at 7:30 p.m. in the Dragon Pub. On Friday, visitors can enjoy a craft beer and wine tasting at 6 p.m., and the band Rockstar goes on stage at 8:30 p.m. An annual tradition continues at sunset as decorated boats travel around Lake Orion during the Lighted Boat Parade. Saturday morning kicks off with a brand new event. The Dragon on the Run 5K begins at 9 a.m. at the corner of Anderson and Front Street, with participants passing through downtown Lake Orion onto beautiful Paint Creek Trail. Enjoy music in the Dragon Pub all day Saturday, culminating with a performance by the always popular Square Pegs at 8:30 p.m. Don't miss the opening ceremony for the Dragon Boat races on Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. in Greens Park. Throughout the day, teams will be competing for the title of 2018 Dragon Boat Race Champion. There's also a chalk art challenge, kids zone, and a whole lot more for the entire family to enjoy. For more information, visit dragononthelake.com or follow Dragon on the Lake on Facebook.
Welcome back to Between Taorminas here on ONTV. I'm your host, Anthony Taormina. Quite a good segment, Sam.
Nice segment.
Apparently that took 15.
Yes, it did.
So that took about half. So let's just go in the second half of our show, and we'll see if we got any more left. Let's preview Lake Orion athletics. Lake Orion football, especially. I did the Lake Orion football preview show with Coach Blackstock. You've done your OAA previous shows for OAA now. You went to OAA Media Day. ONTV was there. Can you talk about what your experience was like at Media Day?
It was very good. I mean, it was like got to meet all 23 coaches, at least talked to all of them except a couple. Got a couple out of interviews. And of course, you get to see my blog coming out. It'll be up this week. Explaining a lot of my projections and insights heading into the 2018 season.
Obviously, we want to talk about Lake Orion football in particular. For Lake Orion will open up at the University of Michigan at the Big House next Thursday against Lapeer. It's no secret that I've been very open about wanting Lapeer in the OA.
It's a tough matchup for Lake Orion.
What's your take about that?
It's a tough match for Lake Orion because you look at they got a quarterback in Brady Apple who's very good. Running back Jalen Kirkland. I talked to a couple. I looked at some insights from ESPN 100.9 FM. It's a radio station up in the Tri-Cities area, and they're high on Lapeer, and especially on Jalen Kirkland and Brady Apple. I mean, those are two very good, legit players that I think Lake Orion's going to have to stop. And, when you look at the Dragons, they got a lot back on their offense, but the question's going to be on their defense, especially in that secondary. I mean, they got some questions there that they have to address. And I think it's going to be a tough matchup, no doubt, week one. Lapeer's got an advantage because, one, they've been in the playoffs, and two, they have experience playing at Michigan Stadium. So I'm a little worried about this team heading into that game at Michigan Stadium.
It'll be an interesting. I want to talk about the schedule too for Lake Orion, because you got Lapeer first, then you're at home against Oxford, which that's always, you can throw the records out the window. That's
Oxford's
always
got
gonna be
a lot back. I mean, but I do got some concerns with them, especially on their defensive line. On their defense side of the football, they were just immediately tortured last year on that side of the ball. They did convert some players. Drew Carpenter was a wide receiver last year. Now he's going to be a quarterback, and he plays the running back too. I mean, Trent Mary's another guy that I'm high on. They got a very good linebacking core over there. So Oxford's not going to be an easy matchup, especially for Lake Orion opening up that new field turf.
And then you got Adams week 3, West Athens week 4, West Bloomfield week 5, at Southfield week 6, Southfield A&T. Homecoming against Bloomfield Hills week 7, the pink game against Clarkson week 8, and then at Monroe week 9.
Well, when you look at this schedule, yes, the people looking at the schedule, West Bloomfield, Southfield is going to be tough, but let's not forget.
It is.
Let's not forget this junior varsity class, who are juniors now, beat West Bloomfield and beat Southfield, and on the road. And when you look at this team, when you look at Lake Orion now, if this team stays healthy, who knows where this team will go. I mean, and when you look at the schedule now, you look at, West Bloomfield arguably I think is the best team in this league, in the red division. Now, when I look at others that could threaten, of course, I'm not a huge fan with Clarkson has. So, they got Dillinger, they have Splinter.
The two linemen.
The two linemen. If one of those two gets hurt, change the whole ballgame. And when you look at the Wolves,
hope no one gets injured, but that
when you look at the Wolves, they've got a tough schedule. They got to play Granville first, and they got to play West Bloomfield the first 2 games. They still got to conclude the year with Oak Park.
Lake Orion week 8 and Oak Park week 9.
Oak Park week 9. That's difficult. And when you look at another team like Southfield, Southfield very athletic, very talented. Tim Conley's done a really nice job. But when you look at Southfield, they're coming off a real rough year, and they got a brutal schedule. They got to play Davison, they got to play River Rouge. I mean, that's not going to be easy for them.
Do you notice that in the OAA Red that it seems like every week is going to be a dog fight. It's going to be a dog fight. It's going to be a war. It's going to be a cat fight, a dog fight. It's going to be a war. And then you look at these other divisions in the OAA White, and then you look at the OAA Blue. In the White, you have a pretty Oak Park, Harrison, and Groves
are the three.
Are the three that
and
are
then the
kind
Blue
of
division
the
got
hierarchy.
Blue, we got Seaholm, Ferndale, Avondale, who I think are the 3 top teams right now. Maybe North Farmington, maybe Farmington, but
It feels like that.
I'm not going to get into that direction.
Well, but at the same time, you talk about, is that a credit to the coaching staffs at those schools, particularly in the Red?
I think it's a credit to all the coaches that have worked hard, all 23 teams. But there's some teams
You got 23 great coaches.
There's some teams that didn't deserve to get the playoffs last year.
But
there were some that deserved to get in the playoffs. Of course, last year the OA had 3 teams that made the state finals.
I know.
2 of them in Division 1. So when you look
that's an accomplishment.
when you look at this league, the OAA is one of the toughest leagues in the state of Michigan. There's no doubt about that.
You can make that argument that the OAA is one of the toughest leagues. You can make that argument because of what you just said, and then you've got quality teams in every division.
That's true.
You really do, and it just is like
it's brutal.
It's just brutal, and the thing that it's like not everybody makes the playoffs, and then you look at strength of schedule, and
I think the MHA has to change that a little bit. Be honest with you,
should they get rid of the 6-win rule?
No,
why not?
Because you got to earn your way to get into the playoffs. You can't go back to the old years where 8 wins or a division championship gets you in the playoffs. It's just too much. You can't do that.
So basically, it's just, and then also you notice with the sub-varsities.
I know.
Their schedules are different.
It's hard.
It's difficult.
It's hard.
It's crazy to think that. It's crazy to think that you've got, we don't even know our fresh and JV schedules yet until later this week.
Nope.
So
we'll see what happens.
Well, definitely we'll see what happens. But what do you see Lake Orion going?
I've been honest. I'll be honest. I think this is a 6-3 team, maybe a 7-2 team. The reason why I like this team on paper offensively, they got a lot of people back. Their defense, I think their offensive line, their lines are going to be a strength of this team. The running game will be a strength. My only concern is to who's going to be catching the ball, and especially that secondary, because you got a lot of good teams in there. I think this is a 6 or 7 win Lake Orion team.
I remember back in I think it was 96, 97, maybe it might have been 98, 90. All the teams in OA Division 1 or the OA Division 1 made the playoffs. I'd love to see that, to be honest.
I'd love to see it happen.
I'd love to see that.
I think 5 teams this year from the Red get in the playoffs.
I'd love to see that.
I think 5 teams.
5 of 7, that's pretty good. But I would love to see. I you look at. I think every one of those teams in the OAA Red are very deserving to get in the playoffs.
Well, you got to look at the teams in the white and teams in the blue.
I am looking at teams in the white.
You got to look at those teams.
I am looking at them. It's just that
I don't know if you're looking at the clear picture or not, but I am right now.
All right, so nonetheless, let's talk about volleyball.
This is a team I think Lake Orion, as long as they stay injury-free. Injuries killed them
last year. Yes.
Injuries killed them last year. This team's going to be as good as Paige Briggs and when McCauley takes them. if those two stay healthy, maybe they can have a run. But when I look at that red division right now,
It's brutal.
and it's brutal, but I think the best team in there is Clarkson because of who they got back.
Even though Clarkson lost a lot, too.
Yes, they did. But they got some really good talent there. And Lake Orion has to go to Clarkson this year.
Yeah, that ain't going to be fun.
No.
But volleyball can do, because of a chance to do very well.
They could do some damage.
They could do well. Soccer. Soccer's in the
They didn't
OAY.
look good against Ike. They lost 5-0. I've got some concerns about this team transitioning to Chris Korteg. So it's
Coach
questions there.
Korteg, he's also the girls' coach. Now he's coaching the boys. Yeah,
Transition's going to be hard. It's going to be hard.
He's a great coach,
but transition's
he's a
going to be
great
hard.
coach. I mean,
Transition's going to be really hard. It's not an easy thing. When you go through a coaching transition, it's never an easy thing.
But I mean, still, they got a great, they got a great coach. Cross country, boys, it's a little bit of
Boys can be a struggle this year. Girls, I think, is going to be solid.
a lot of really good teams in the boys. You've got Oxford, who's going to be really good. Clarkson going to be really good. Troy, Seaholm going to be pretty good. I mean,
Yes.
that's going to be a tall order.
Will not be
but,
easy.
I mean, no, if anyone can overcome that, it's Coach Ford.
Yep.
And the girls got a chance to do pretty well.
Yes.
So that'll be a very interesting in cross country.
Will be.
Also we've got
I think golf will be okay. Girls golf will be all right.
Yeah,
I think that.
they went to the state
I
finals.
think tennis
last
will
year.
be fine.
Girls
so
golf
we'll
won the
see what
state-
happens.
I mean, it'll be a very interesting year in Lake Orion.
Oh yes.
Very interesting in the fall.
I think so. Fall sports, Lake Orion, would be very interesting.
I mean, it always is an adventure. I mean,
It always is.
I would obviously, I think football's going to have a good year. It'll be very interesting to see how they do. Volleyball, obviously, it's going
Those are
to
the two
be.
sports I'm watching. Football, volleyball, very carefully in Lake Orion.
Volleyball will be very
Those
interesting
are the
as
two
well.
sports I'm watching very carefully.
I mean, you got, with volleyball, it's always in the districts. It's always you got two of the top.
Can they get by
15
Clarkston this
two of the
year?
top 15
Can they get by
teams in
Clarkston this
state.
year? That's the big question. Because look at what Clarkston's done. Look what Lake Orion's done. Clarkston in the past, they have struggled early on. Then they've gotten better. They've gotten better, improved.
I
And the Lake Orion kind of has been it's sort of like, doing that pass. It's not an easy.
They do very well, but then with the injuries,
With
they
the
struggle
injuries, they struggle, or,
Well, the only
if you're
exception was
running
a couple
Clarkston.
years ago. The only exception was a couple years ago where Lake Orion swept Clarkston, if you remember.
I remember that.
That was a couple years ago. So I mean,
remember that.
it's always competitive between Lake Orion and Clarkston.
Oh, it always
volleyball.
is. It always is.
Soccer will be very interesting to see. I mean, the question will be how do they handle the transition?
That's a question.
I mean, and then you got cross country is going to be.
Yep.
And then you got boys tennis. Boys tennis isn't going to be bad.
be
So
okay.
that'll be a good year.
Should be okay.
All right, that does it for this episode of Between Taorminas. We'll catch you soon, Lake Orion. Have a great evening and see you soon.